But anyway, for today's talk, this morning's talk, there's one thing I haven't mentioned yet, and many people keep asking about it, and that is the type of meditation I've been teaching so far is mostly learning how to calm the mind down, make it nice and peaceful. What about insight? Because that's very well presented, or well, not well presented, but well much talked about in Western places. Insight meditation. What is it? Is it valid? How do you do it? Why do you do it? And what's it got to do with what I've been teaching the last 3 or 4 days? So, I'm going to start with one of the Buddha's stories. And I remember when I first saw this, it's right there in the suttas, but it is expanded in the commentaries, but it seems to be valid expansion. But it's said, first of all, by the Buddha in the suttas. Now remember, when the Buddha was teaching, he used the analogies, the similes of the times in which he lived. And those times were sometimes like agricultural similes, or in this particular case, the forms of government in those days, which were like kings and emperors and stuff. So he said, once upon a time, or I should have begun, are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. That's what he used to say when he used to give talks to kids. Make sure you're sitting comfortably first, and then you can tell the story. But anyway, there was an emperor, and very successful, and one of his sons, he wanted to let his son learn the tricks of how to govern, how to rule in a good way. So he had one of the outer lying provinces, and he sent his son to the outer lying province and said, this little province over here, that is yours, you can do what you like over there, because that's the only way you can learn. So learn how to rule. So he went with a couple of his friends up there to this outer lying province, and of course he was running it for a while. And then what happened was that some of the senior people in that province, they sent a deputation down to see the emperor. They say, with all respect, your majesty, whatever you call emperors, with all due respect, your son is not doing any work at all. He's just having festivals and parties and enjoying himself, but he's not governing. And he said, well, that's sometimes what happens. When your kid first time leaves home, and then, like it used to happen before, that people in Malaysia and Singapore and stuff, they send their kids over to Perth, to go to university. And did they go to university? Well, they sort of did. They spent a lot of time playing around, first time away from home. And this is a little off on a tangent here. That actually happened that years ago, over in Nolamara Centre, this girl, she was at university in UWA, first year, I think from Malaysia, and she was asked me to do some chanting for her. She was doing the first year exams, end of year exams. And I'm very happy to chant for anybody, makes them feel good. Sometimes the chanting is just like a football club. Yay, go on, whatever, I'm not going to name whatever team, because sometimes I get into trouble that why do you mention that team and not the other team, which I support, and they don't give any donations anymore. But anyway, that's something different. So anyway, you can see just when you're chanting, you're building up people's confidence, and so it does have an effect. So I just gave her some chanting and said, thank you very much, and then she went away. I never saw her again. It was her friends who told me. She said, that girl, remember her last week? She came and asked you for some special chanting. She's going around now, UWA, with her friends, saying, those monks not in Serpentine, in Dhammaloka, especially that leader, Ajahn Brahm, he's no good. Ajahn Brahm's no good. He can't chant. Because what happened? She failed. And she blamed me. And a friend said, don't worry about that, Ajahn Brahm. We all respect you. the point was that she hadn't done any work, hadn't gone to lectures, hadn't gone to supervisions. She's just partying all the time, enjoying her little first year of freedom away from her family in Malaysia. And she just was enjoying herself so much. She said, that's what I thought I was supposed to do. And the job of passing the exam, she delegated that to me. And I said, you can't do that. I can help a little bit, but you have to do some work. So anyway, I got blamed for that one. But that's sometimes what happens, when people go away from home for the first time, they just... But anyway, that's what happened to that prince as well, the son of the emperor. He was messing around, playing around, enjoying himself. He was a good boy, but... So the king, the emperor, said, okay, I'll sort this out. So he sent one of his ministers, really smart minister, to go to that province and tell the prince how to run a little province. Doesn't mean it's all work, work, work. You'd have some play and entertainment. He's a young man, but at least do some governance, do some work. So the minister went up there, and as soon as the minister came in, he said, I'm from your father, and I've just come to tell you, I don't care what you come from, what you come to tell me. This is my province, this is my region, and my father gave it to me. Get out. And he sent the minister away. He wouldn't listen to the minister. So the minister went back to the main capital, and the emperor said, oh yeah, that's my fault. I shouldn't have sent you alone. So he sent this general from the army. This general had been through so many battles, won so many campaigns, a really big guy with a very sharp sword. So the two of them went together. The two messengers from the emperor were the wise minister and the fierce general. And when they came in again to this province, this regional little enclave, then the minister said again, I've come back again from your father, the emperor. And the prince says, get out of it, I told you to get out already. And then the general took out his sword, grabbed the prince by the hair, put the sword to his throat, and said, you better listen to your father's minister. I'm listening, I'm listening. I'm listening. And with the general holding the prince's head perfectly still, then the minister had the opportunity to teach him about the duties and the joys of being a leader. And the prince understood. And from that moment on, he became a wise and competent leader, and eventually took over the whole empire. When the Buddha said that story, he said, the wise minister is called insight. The general who can hold you still, that's called samatha. You need both there. Otherwise, insight will not be able to teach you long enough for you to really understand. You need to keep it still, first of all. So that was the Buddha's story, how the two always go together. Now, number 2 story. I did mention I get involved in some really interesting gigs. Call them gigs, it's invitations to teach overseas. And one of those interesting gigs was the keynote address at the World Computer Conference in 2019 in Daejeon, Korea. I got this invitation. Can you please give the keynote address at the World Computer Conference in Daejeon, South Korea, in 2019? Of course, all expenses paid. A business class ticket from Perth all the way to South Korea. I'm staying in a really nice hotel. And first of all, I thought, why are they inviting me? Have they got the wrong monk? If you see my computer skills, they're not that great. Well, okay, but there's something which my character, and also what I learned from Ajahn Chah, is just see what happens. Just don't be afraid. Something new. I've been to Buddhist conferences and retreats and stuff. Going to a keynote address at the World Computer Conference, I've never done that before. So anyway, I went up there. And of course, when I arrived, they looked after, but then they kept on asking me, what are you doing here? We've never heard of you before. And one of the first examples I gave of how insight works is sometimes it's unusual where you get great insight. And because this was like a a business conference, I told the story of, it was just before the First World War, in the, what's it called, the World Expo, what do they call them now? It was over in St. Louis World's Fair, World's Fair. In the St. Louis World's Fair in 1910 or something, they had lots and lots of exhibitions. I'm going to say expeditions, but apparently it was a very big complex, so you had an expedition to find out where you're going next. But nevertheless, of course, in all of these big events, you always have to feed people. So they had all these stalls of different types of food, and people would make a lot of money by that, by selling the stuff, the food. But anyway, it just happened by chance that the store which was selling ice cream was situated right next to the store which was selling waffles. And the two guys who owned these stalls, they started talking to one another, became friends. What happens is then you start to cooperate. So they decided to combine a waffle with an ice cream. And that, seriously, that is where the ice cream cone was born. All those ice cream cones you see, it's like a waffle, a very thin waffle, with an ice cream on the top. And that's where it came from. Two different types of food. No one would have thought they belonged to one another. Put them together, and then you get this amazing combination, which is one of the ways which people eat ice creams these days, an ice cream cone. All came, just a bit of chance, working together. Now, I've already told you that when we eat over in Jhana Monastery, all the food goes in one bowl. So we have lots and lots of opportunities to invent new food combinations. Nothing has worked yet, but nevertheless, we keep trying. What I said is strawberry ice cream on spaghetti bolognese, that was a famous one. It's amazing, that never took off, and most people didn't like that afterwards. But anyway, so one of the things which I taught there at Daejeon was insight. What is it? And then offered over here, I had like a water bottle, but it's not as good as this thing over here. I held something up. This is my keynote address. And once they had all the openings from the mayors and politicians and stuff, then Ajahn Brahm keynote address. I held up this piece of, what is it? What am I holding up? Please let me know. Come on, you can speak. Please, no noble silence when we have these sorts of demonstrations. What is this? Yeah, what else is it? Come on, describe it to me. Give me some information. Wood, yeah, what else? Yeah, what else? Yes, what else? Yes, what else? Keep on looking. After a while, you run out of labels. Once you start to run out of labels, then you may be able to start seeing it. Because our wisdom, what we take to be insight, is just a bunch of labels. Descriptions which we've learned at school. You know, when your first teacher at primary school, grade school, says, this is stick, this is cup, this is mummy, this is daddy, this is monk. But it's much deeper than that, isn't it? So what actually is this? After a while, you keep looking at this. And the longer you look at it, the more you discover. The deeper you look, the more you can actually find and see new things in it. This is a way of insight. It's a way of discovery. Not just finding out what you've already been taught, or you already know. Which is one of the reasons why years ago I said it's one of these little sayings which people write down. It usually ends up on the board outside the dining room. That never allow your learning to stand in the way of truth. Because sometimes your learning blocks out the truth. It's not what you've been told. Even though the truth is right in front of you. You say, no, that can't be, because that's not what I've been told by the people I respect. Never allow your learning, or let's put it another way, never allow your knowledge to stand in the way of truth. Otherwise, there's no just going deeper into understanding the nature of things. So insight, really to seeing more and more closely into the truth, you have to throw away a lot of stuff from the past. What you've been taught, or expected to be true. Let that go and you look at something like a piece of wood, and you can see so many more things in it you've never seen before. It's incredible, good, beautiful shape. And anyway, as you do that, you go deeper and deeper and you get what we call the insight. But the reason people don't get insight, they don't stay long enough with it. They're not still enough to be able to look at something and see that you find just as a few things like beauty in the contents of a toilet bowl. You don't see freedom in a prison, and you're happy to be there. It's a rest for you. You don't see some of the great truths of this world which are right in front of you. You just need to stay there, and after a while it opens up, and you can see it. Don't see that all the problems which we have in life, all the sicknesses, all the disappointments, all the losses, all the tragedies, you start to see that after a while, that is just like the dog poo. Smelly, stinky, unpleasant, but it's the best fertilizer for wisdom and compassion. You don't start to see, because you live in a forest all your life, you see all the trees in the forest. There's not one of them which is perfect. They're all bent and twisted and damaged. They're damaged. Every tree in this forest is damaged goods. And it's beautiful. It belongs. They're welcome. More than that, the more damaged they are, the more beautiful they are. You go and look for your most favourite tree, and it's one which is damaged, bent, twisted, all over the place. It's totally unique. So little by little what happens is insight is born of stillness. When you're really still, and you can look at something, soon you dispense with all of your knowledge, all the things which you've been told. This is a stick which Ajahn Brahm uses to get the bowl to sing, they call it. It's more than that. It's a nice teaching aid. You know that once Ajahn Chah, he picked up a stick when I was actually holding his bowl when coming back from Amsa. He wanted to give me a quick teaching. That's one of the nice things about Ajahn Chah. He would give you a teaching any time, and it was powerful, but so simple. He picked up, and he said, "Is this heavy?" And before I could answer, oops, he'd thrown it away. It's only heavy when you hold it. When you're not holding it, it's not heavy anymore. All the worries and concerns you have in your life, your physical health, your future, the fact that all the things you can worry about, like that stick is so far away now, I can't use it anymore. No, it's okay, leave it there. Okay, you put it up. You see, it takes no effort. It always comes back by itself. Thank you. So little by little, you learn some of the unexpected truths of life. Things, just like how to deal with disappointment and sickness. Sometimes that people lose things in their life. Oh. But then what you lose, there's always some gain from that. I mentioned that story the other day. Just last night, the scariest moment in my life, when as a young man, we were just joking around with my mates and said, "Oh, no one will marry me." And this girl stayed next to me. "I would." That scared me, but it was I'm very gratitude to her, because if she'd have married me, I wouldn't have been able to become a monk. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So you don't know. Just know what life is going to give you and how it's going to turn out. And because of that, sometimes even dog poo has a great purpose to it in life. It creates the fertilizer for the fruits and the flowers and the beautiful garden in your heart. That's what you use to learn, to grow. And after a while, you find out that that was actually, oh, thank you, give me some more. So whenever you see dog poo, always make sure, please step in it on purpose. Okay, here's another joke. A bad joke, but here he goes. One nature. This little guy, he was an office worker, maybe about 18, 19, just going to work in the morning, and he tripped in. There's a big pile of dog poo. He trod in it. He wasn't paying attention. He was looking at his iPhone. And he trod in it. Ugh. So he went to the side there. And then just right behind him, there was this huge, big, fierce bikie was walking behind him. And the bikie trod in the poo too. And the young man said, oh, yeah, I just did that. Okay, somebody understood that joke. What the young man meant to say, that I trod in it too. What the bikie heard, that he just pooed there himself. Okay, anyway, I do try to tell jokes. Okay, some people get them, some people don't. That's my life. But if you had insight and you stayed with these jokes long enough, you'll be able to penetrate them and understand them. It's just your insight is not strong enough yet. So anyway, that's my little simile on insight. You've got to be still to be able to see long enough. And when you see long enough, you get insight. The job of insight is to keep you still. Why move? Why complain? Why complain? When I was young, I was really concerned what other people thought of me. You had to dress, fashionably. You had to speak, really words which, was the right type of words which a young man should say. And even worse for the poor girls, you had to dress fashionably. And I still remember just going to give some talks in Melbourne about this time of the year. In about August or July or something. And when I went there, they had this fashion of having just low-slung jeans or skirts and midriffs. And most of the middle part of their body was just bare. There's no clothes on them at all. Just, you had the trousers down here, and what's it called, halter tops or something? I don't know what it's called. I'm not a fashionista. But anyway, most of it was bare. And he felt so sad and compassionate towards these poor girls. They were freezing. What are you doing that for? It's fashion. Anyway, I couldn't understand that. But a lot of times, when you see these things, why do you do those things which really hurt? Instead of actually, instead of worrying what other people think of you, just relax, enjoy yourself. So anyway, I know that when you're young, you're really concerned what other people think of you. And when you're in your middle age, however long that is, you get self-confidence. You don't care what other people think of you. You just do it anyway. You've seen people like that, they tell jokes, don't care if people laugh or don't laugh or whatever. I'm going to be comfortable with myself. I don't care what other people think of me. And then you find out when you're in your later years, 60 or 70, then you finally discover that people weren't thinking about you anyway. That most people think about themselves. So if you can learn that early on in your life, you can relax much more and don't be so afraid. But anyway, the job of insight is to create calm and peace. The job of peace is to keep you still enough to learn from life and to understand it. Peace gives you insight, insight gives you peace. They always go together. So my little anecdote and simile for samatha and vipassana, there were this couple. And this couple, he was called Sam. Sam Atta. Samatha. And he was living with his beautiful partner, Vipassana. So Sam and Samatha and Vipassana. I do my best to try and make it interesting. But the meaning behind the simile is very powerful. Sam Atta and Vipassana, they lived together. And they had a little dog called Anapana, Beth. And they had another little dog called Metta. Metta the dog and Anapana. And so one day they decided to go for a walk up Meditation Mountain. They were close to where they lived. So they went up a walk for Meditation Mountain with their two dogs, Anapana and Metta. And Sam, he wanted to go up there because it was so peaceful up there. Up a Meditation Mountain, it was just so still and calm. You could actually feel it, almost like the peace on the top of the mountain would soak into you and make everything just relax to the max. So calm up there. Vi, she was a photographer. So she took out her photography, all these different lenses and filters and stuff. She wanted to take some really incredible shots, of the view. You could see everything on top of Meditation Mountain. And the dogs. Sometimes I think the dogs are much wiser than the human beings. They just went up there for fun, to enjoy themselves. So anyway, they got halfway up Meditation Mountain. And even halfway up, wow, it was so peaceful up there. So still. Even only halfway up, that Sam was just enjoying. He was getting tears coming down of his eyes. So much piti sukha, so much bliss, even halfway up there. The peace was fantastic. And of course, Vi, she could feel the peace, but she also had her camera out there and taking these incredible views. You could see almost everything. And Anapana, the dog, was disappearing. She was so gentle, so even, so light. And Metta, the dog, she was wagging her tail. She was also enjoying it so much up there. And when they got to the top of Meditation Mountain, wow, that was so silent. That Sam, so much energy, so much joy, it's almost like bursting and explode in bliss. But he also had a pair of eyes as well. He could see like forever. Everything in the universe was laid out in front of him, really clear. His wife, partner Vi, she was taking all these amazing shots, all with different filters, just of the nature of reality, all right out in front of her. But she could also experience a deep, powerful stillness. So much she didn't really want to do it, even a click to take the image, but she did. Metta, the dog, she's up there on top of Meditation Mountain too. And she was just so blissed out that she was wagging her tail and running around in circles, but silently, just like dogs do when they're really, 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 really happy. And Anapana had vanished, had disappeared. Because on the top of Meditation Mountain, in deep stillness, saying the jhanas, the breath has stopped. You can't find it. Metta, it's so strong. If you want to know what metta is, you should love the whole universe. and also so still. You can see everything which needs to be seen. Sam and Vi and metta always go together up on Meditation Mountain. And of course, those are similes which you develop over the years. First of all, I just said it was Sam and Vi going together, just Samatha Vipassana always going together. It was only later on I thought, hey, I've missed out something important. Metta. Those three always go together if you want to get to the top of the mountain. Sometimes people think, oh, just Samatha or just Vipassana. Have you ever gone? I remember just going to those retreats. There was even a lay person. In those days, it was fortunate because I didn't have a tradition. It was just any Buddhism would do. Because in UK at the time, there was so little Buddhism around. And so I wanted to find a way. I remember just going to this Japanese monk who had just come to UK, and then he could hardly speak any English. I was a lay person at this time. And then he went off teaching all the different places in UK. And then I saw his last talk before he got on the plane to go back to Japan. And someone asked him the question, you've been in UK for about a couple of months. What do you think of Buddhism in UK? And even though, he couldn't speak any English when he began his tour, he could speak a little bit of English now. So he answered himself in English to the question, what did he think of Buddhism in UK? This was in the 60s. And he said, books, books, books. Too many, too many, too many. Dustbin, dustbin, dustbin. And I thought, how eloquent that response was. It was got to the point of it. Not that books are bad, but there were too many intellectuals arguing about just the meaning of a comma somewhere. And instead of actually just feeling it, feeling the practice, Sam and Vi and metta going together on your path. So little by little, that answers one of the questions. Oh, Ajahn Chah's Samatha Vipassana, when he was asked that question, how he would answer it, he'd put up his hand. He'd say, can you see the front of my hand? Now you can see the back of my hand. But you can't see the front now. Now you can see the front, but you can't see the back. But I guarantee you, if it's the front of the hand, it has to be a back just behind it. If it's the back of the hand, it has to be the front just behind that. So that's Samatha Vipassana. One maybe think you're going in front with Samatha. You may think you're going in front with Vipassana. But right behind that is Samatha. Right behind Samatha is Vipassana. You cannot split them up. That is how Ajahn Chah used to teach. So when you say, what are you doing, Samatha Vipassana? Both. You're practicing. Eightfold Path. That's all. So little by little, you understand that no matter what you're doing, you always have to have some calm and some insight. And you know it's insight because it creates calm. And that's one of the things I was going to talk about, why it is that when we get to blockages in meditation, that you're meditating and something's not working. What do? Do you use willpower? Try harder. Come on, just endure. Push through. You don't push through. Pushing through is literally like you come across a wall in meditation, you keep banging your head against the wall. Bang, bang, bang. That was again another sort of story. That this journalist went to that Wailing Wall in Jerusalem. There's one of these rabbis was banging his head against the wall and said, what are you doing? I'm asking for world peace. Is it successful? No, it's like banging your head against a brick wall. Oh, come on. You can laugh. Anyway, but if it's like you feel like you're banging your head against a brick wall, it's not working, don't just keep banging. You just get a headache. stand back and get a wider view. A lot of time when you get a wider view, you find there's a door just to the left, there's a big hole to the right, or there's a ladder, you can go over it. But when you're just right in the center there, that's all you see. And I remember, I don't know if it's a good simile or not a good simile, but I remember somebody showed me a little clip of a detention centre which was built in South Australia, and they ran out of funds, so all they did was this incredible gate. The gate was just, state-of-the-art, barbed wire, razor wire, everything, all electronic, cost the government a fortune. But then just to the left, that's actually where they ran out of money, so there was no even fence to the left, no fence to the right. All they had was a gate. Very good, very nice-looking gate, though. Sometimes that happens in life. Just stand back a bit and just walk through. So anyway, that's actually pretty similar to what happens in meditation. One of the things, the insights which you always probably have is people in Buddhism, generally speaking, are just too severe, too hard when they meditate. They think, only got a 9-day retreat. Go for it, come on. How many days are left? I haven't got a clue. How many days are left? So you go for it, and I've got to really make some effort now. Really got to do it. Wasting my time. I don't know when I can get back to come to a retreat again. I really got to do it hard. Oh look, come on, that's never going to work. You've done that before. As I said, when you meditate enlightenment or bust, guaranteed you will always bust. That was one of my first experiences when, again, as a student, still not really understanding what you were doing, I went to the Vesak celebrations at the university. And they invited, I think it was Dr. Sadatissa, to come and give a talk. He's a monk, a very famous monk, Sri Lankan. And he gave this talk about the story of the Buddha's enlightenment. He sat under the Bodhi tree and he made a vow that he will not move from this seat until he attains full, complete enlightenment, or his blood dries up and his bones turn to dust. It wasn't going to move. Enlightenment or death. I was inspired when I heard that. I thought, wow, that's it. And I thought, that he's an Indian, I'm an English. He didn't go to university, I did. So I said, I can do that. And also, I was very busy in my life. I wanted to get enlightenment out of the way so I can get on to do something else. No, you can't. All these stupid, arrogant ideas you have as a young man. So after the session was finished, I went back to my room and I got my little cushion out and I made sure I was really comfortable. And I made that vow. I'm serious. I'm not going to move from this seat until I get full enlightenment, or my blood dries up and my bones turn to dust. I'm serious. Now in those days I could maybe manage 20 minutes of meditation at most. I was only 18 or 19 or something. What do you expect? So anyway, sat down there, made a resolution. I got about 20 minutes. It was starting to hurt. But I've got to keep my resolution, so half an hour. It was agony, it was torture. I got to 40 minutes. Amazing. I remember opening my eyes. Oh, that really hurt. And I looked and my bones hadn't turned to dust yet. Oh. And that's actually true, that happened. And it just taught me from the very beginning, this is not done by willpower. It's done by wisdom power. And part of that wisdom power is kindness. I was being totally unkind to my body, unkind to my mind. I think I can force it. But of course, the way to do it, I've told you, is the mindfulness and the kindness, the kindfulness. You open up your lotus. It opens by itself. And the most amazing thing about that, I can't sort of resist telling some of these stories. The amazing thing about that, it's so easy. People say, oh, come on, Ajahn Brahm, it's not easy. You don't meditate like we meditate. Of course I've meditated like you've meditated. trying to get somewhere, trying to do something, trying to be somebody. That doesn't work at all. And you get frustrated, you try even harder. You get angry, you get upset. Not at anybody else, but at yourself. And that doesn't work at all. So instead, you're kind to yourself. Okay, this particular story. The nuns know who I'm talking to. She's not here today, thank goodness. But she was one of the lay meditators. And she was on one of my retreats over it was actually in Thailand, but run by the Singaporeans and Malaysians. And anyway, 9 days of meditation retreat, just like here. She was meditating just so diligently, getting up early, never missing any of the meditation classes, come to the interviews, getting nowhere. And at the end of 9 days, she thought she tried her very best, but nothing worked. Have you ever had that experience? And nothing worked. No, maybe I'm not meant to be enlightened or anything. But then, once the retreat was formally finished, and we did all of the photographs or whatever else and chanting and stuff, then her flight back home was a late flight. And she had another hour to wait for her taxi to arrive at this retreat place. And so she said to me she had an hour to kill. That's what they call it, an hour to kill. It's not a very Buddhist way, is it? The Buddhist term, that hour to kill. Like some people, even you're Buddhists and you're even vegans, and you say to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. That's a terrible simile. So instead you say to cut 2 carrots with the same knife. Or at least we can improve it somehow or other. But anyway, she had an hour to kill, to waste, whatever she called it. And then so she just went into the hall and sat down. And for the first time, she never tried to meditate. When she came out afterwards, it was one of those lovely memories. She enjoyed it too, but for me it was just wonderful. She came up to me, she was crouching on the floor with her hands up, saying, Ajahn Brahm, it's wonderful, at last, She'd had her first deep meditation. And the reason I tell that story, I've asked her permission before, I can tell it, is because for the first time she stopped trying. She'd been running as a little donkey, running after the carrot for the whole 9 days. And now she stopped running. And the carrot came to her. Thank you. That's how it works. It's that insight to stop. That sort of great kindness. Oh, give your poor old body and mind a break. Relax. And those are powerful insights. What would it be like, do you think? And this is one of my other similes for enlightenment. I did this simile such a long time ago now. But this is a simile. That's right, it was actually, I can tell you when it was now. It's 30 years ago, 31 years ago. This is 1991. That's about right. And I developed the simile of the driverless bus. That word, driverless bus, I should have patented it at the time, because no one else was using that driverless bus or driverless car. The Buddhist Society of West Australia could have made a lot of money out of that before Google or Tesla or something had driverless vehicles. But anyway, the driverless bus simile. Not into money, but into insight and wisdom and kindness. The driverless bus simile. Life is like a journey. That's pretty ordinary, isn't it? You've heard that so many times. But in this journey of yours, it's like you're on a bus. And your bus goes through some disgusting territory sometimes, terrible, painful, unpleasant territory. You look out the window and it's pain and it's no hope and it's dirty and it's tragic and all this sadness of losing people you love and stuff. What do? You tell the bus driver, put your foot down on the accelerator, let's get out of here as soon as possible. So a lot of times people come to talks or meditation retreats because they want to train their bus driver to have less suffering by learning how to go through pleasant places. And if you do go through unpleasant places, to put your foot down and speed through them quickly. But what does your bus driver normally do? Even if you come here, you still have to experience a lot of disappointment and pain and misery and think, oh, this meditation doesn't work. And I want to be happier, but I'm still... And then sometimes your bus goes through some beautiful scenery, beautiful mountains and waterfalls and rivers and beautiful gardens with flowers, and all the nice things of life. And what do you tell your bus driver? Slow down. Please park. I want to enjoy this. And what does your bus driver do? Foot down, accelerator, whoosh! And speed. All your happy times don't last as long as they should. The unhappy times last longer than they should. And after a while, you think, you've got a very stupid bus driver. So you come to meditation retreats to try and find that bus driver and teach them how to be wise and kind and not make so many mistakes and learn how to drive your bus properly, so have more happiness and less suffering. But before you can instruct your bus driver, you've got to find that bus driver first of all. So after a long time, you get up from your seat and you start walking to find the bus driver's seat of your life. Why do you do all the things you do? Why do you make stupid mistakes again and again and again? Why can't you just be more happy and peaceful? And eventually, before you can even talk to the bus driver, you've got to find them first. So when you do find the bus driver's seat, you get the shock of your life. The bus driver's seat is empty. It's a driverless bus. Anatta, not self. So what happens? Once you find your bus driver's seat, there's no one there, it's empty, what happens? You go back to your own seat, you sit down and you stop complaining. There's no one to complain to. Do you ever feel guilty about something you did? No point. You didn't do it. You can't complain to the bus driver. Can you actually praise the bus driver? Oh, wonderful bus driver, well done. It's a driverless seat. Your desires and ill wills, praise and blame, stop. There's no one to blame anymore. So after a while, likes and dislikes vanish. It's a driverless bus. That's wisdom. That's what restrains the defilements. All this greed, hatred, and delusion. Who's being greedy? Who's being hating? When there's no one there, when delusion has stopped, no more likes and dislikes, no more wants, no more no-wants. This is where wisdom, insight, stops the defilements and makes them become so still. So that's how these things work. So that is insight, meditation. And wanting something just a little like, make it a little bit more ordinary. You know that when you are meditating, or when you are here at Jhana Grove, or when you're in discomfort, physical discomfort, sometimes you can ask yourself, what do I want? If you can find an answer to that, you want something, you realize that's the cause of the pain and the suffering. wanting is the cause of suffering. If you're sitting here, you don't want anything in the whole world. I'm used to the pain, I'm used to the tiredness, I'm used to the tension of old age, I'm used to not feeling full energy. I'm not trying to get back to when I was young and fit and handsome. I used to be handsome 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Not now. But I can't understand this. I'm 70 years of age now, and there's more people who want to take photographs of me. It's really weird. I'm no longer attractive. I'm an old man. His robe keeps falling down. But after a while, the thing which really attracts me is kindness. And I've told that to many young people. If you want to be attractive, smile a lot. Do you like to be around people who are smiling? Or would you like to be around people who are, The best makeup on a person's face is their smile. And it shows, if it's a real smile, it shows their kindness, their softness, their sense of fun. And that's what I use when I meditate. And sometimes when I'm meditating, the meditation seems a bit dull. And what I do sometimes, I just take my attention away from inside and put it on my face. On this. I turn the corners up. On purpose, intentionally. And that creates a feeling of happiness and joy inside. And it's sort of more connected. It's just a way of lighting a little match to start the fire of kindness. And then doing that, it's so much easier to meditate. You know where I first learned that, of all places, when I was a student? I got talked into joining the boat club. It's only the college level, not the, doing the university level against Oxford. You know how I was talked into that? I'm honest with you. That, that's the time my first year at Cambridge, I was still drinking alcohol. And they had this boat club, and there was like free sherry or something, or port or something. Free wine. And you've just come along. I must have had too many glasses because I signed up. The boat club. It was a total fraud. Anyway, then I started rowing these boats. It's really hard work. On these oars, and you keep pulling them. And, But then the one thing which I learned from that, the one thing which I value, was the coach. He was on a bicycle by the towpath. He had a megaphone. And so shouting, giving instructions, training us. He looked at me and he said, "You're making a very ugly face. Smile." And then there was hard work, you're putting as much effort as you possibly could to pull that oar. But at that time in my life, I was willing to try anything which people said. Because, that was the whole point of being young, learning, growing and experimenting. And I just stopped grimacing and started smiling. And it was amazing. I remember that. The oar was much easier to pull and had much more effort and much more energy, simply because I changed from a grimace to a smile. And that's actually what happened in the meditation as well. I remembered that little instruction from that person who taught me how to row an 8 in a boat race. And I did that when you're meditating. You're sitting here, this is really tough. Smile. And it gets easier. And it gets deeper and more peaceful. There's a very quick trick in how to add what was missing in my meditation practice. Kindness, a sense of fun. Again, people always think that life should be so serious. And I remember somebody once told me the definition of the Puritans, the Puritan religion which went over to the United States, Mayflower and all that sort of stuff. And they said, definition of the Puritan form of Christianity is the fear that somewhere someone is being happy. That's what it was. Sorry, I've got a stick in my nose. No. Okay. I don't know. But anyway, that was, if you ever, I remember going to I used to go to church, Anglican church when I was young. You know why I went? Because I had a good voice when I was young, so I was in the school choir, and so they sent me off to be in the choir at the church. I loved that. You know why I enjoyed that? Because every Saturday, there's always a wedding or two on. And when you went to a wedding, you look very, about 10, 11 years of age, very cute, very nice voice. And the married couple would always give you tips. And that was, my father was very poor. And that's where I got my pocket money from. I never told him why I went to church. But you say you're going out playing soccer, or you're going to your mates, they say, what are you doing there? When I said I was going to, okay, off you go. That's my source of income as a kid. And you made a lot of money that way, it's just so banal and worldly at that age. But anyway, so you made a lot of money going there. But anyway, yeah. But I always remember those churches. There was never any cushions on the pews. They're just wooden benches. And the stone, it was just so cold and ascetic. And you went in there to cheer you up, there's this picture of this guy being crucified on it. It was just so harsh. But then, of course, you're very happy that when you come to the BSWA, you come here, you've got cushions. And how many cushions? Who's got the Guinness Book of Records for the most cushions on this retreat? If you want some more, take some more. Now, I often thought about that. Okay, just last little anecdote is because, the meditation's getting more and more popular, that, that we have cushions, but look at the cushions we have. These are so old-fashioned, so low-tech. Surely somebody who's in the tech industry can start making high-tech meditation cushions. You can just imagine them. Just nice, not just, what's that in there, cotton or something. It's, you have little compartments of air, and you have your remote control. And if the back is a bit sort of low, you can press it and it comes up. If your knee is a bit low here, that can come up, this one can go down. And if you're too hot, you can actually cool it down, so this is really nice and cool in there. And if you suffer from cold, you can warm it up. And if you get this, sometimes you sit a long period of time and you get a bit sore, so you can have another one. Because I remember on these business class seats, sometimes people get me, you press a button and you can actually massage your shoe. So you can have the massage feature on your meditation cushion. And in case you get sloth and torpor, sloth and torpor happens, you can press another little button and it gives you the menu. You have latte, flat white. And so you press a little button. You don't just have water in your cup. You can have really nice tea. Mm-hmm. Hot, made on the spot. So if anybody wants to have the high-tech meditation cushions, you can make a lot of money that way, I reckon. Anyway, that was just fantasy and messing around. Anyway, it's 9 o'clock already. I hope you enjoyed that. I did. Anyway, but just... learning how to have some fun and some energy. Because sometimes meditation retreats can be so boring. I'm saying for me, not for you. But anyway, so I hope you got something out of that. The joy, the happiness, put that into meditation, add it if it's not there. And your meditation gets so much more deep. That's a little insight you have. Happiness and joy have to be part of it. Okay. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Yeah. Okay. Oops.